at work?
Because it spins forever.
What spins forever?
I'm waiting for it to connect.
You're waiting for what to connect?
The internet to connect.
Oh, I thought you were spinning. Hello, everyone. We are live. How's everyone doing? I was going to keep this conversation rolling for, but we do have a guest and we do have to get to the guest. So
I'm still spinning.
thank you for adjusting me.
It's not adjusting.
And 1, 3, 2, and 1. We are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is going to be a fun show. We have Benjamin from RolyBois, and I've known Benjamin for offline or online, more online. I don't think I've ever met Benjamin. Oh, we have at a show. That's right. And super good guy, super fun guy. This is going to be a fun interview. We're going to get to know a little bit about Benjamin. We're going to get to know about his company and find out what he thinks about the hobby and reptile shows, things like that. This is going to be fun. What do we have going on, Nanette? What's going on real quick at Supreme Gecko?
Not a thing.
Nothing? I feel like our lighting is really bad. I'm going to turn up the lights here, maybe.
I don't know. What do we have going besides starting all the heaters up and getting everything ready for breeding? You've been doing lots of cleaning.
Well, everything needed to be cleaned. Everything was dirty. No, it wasn't. Everything is being reset for this breeding season. We're putting together now you've got it working?
The internet is now functioning. Yes, it
was
not
hopefully
me. I was fine.
Hopefully we look okay. We sound okay. Last week was, oh my gosh, we switched over to another application. I've been back and forth with the support from that application because it was so blurry. I apologize, folks, for how bad it was last week. Thank you very much for staying with us and holding on, waiting for it to improve. So hopefully this week it looks a little bit better. Katie is saying, hopefully I got that, it's more clear than last time. That's not saying much. It was like looking through like a Coke bottle or a clear bottle. That's trying to watch us. Bottle. Yeah, I missed on that one. Dramatically. So everything is out of brumation. And we're so late here in Wisconsin. Everything's coming out of brumation.
We're still getting snow.
We have snow on the ground. We literally have snow on the ground.
It's almost melted.
Almost gone. So Wisconsin, you okay?
I don't know.
You want some
Coke? I don't want any of your Coke.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's hard because we're a little bit late here, but that's the way it is, and I've accepted it years ago. I think are going to have some exciting news this year with some new hatchings. My fingers are crossed, and I'm hoping I can get some animals out there that others haven't been able to work with. And like I said, this could be an exciting year at Supreme Gecko. We have our crested geckos, gargoyles, and all of the other animals, but we have some animals this year that are just coming to the point where we can introduce them and start the breeding. What else is going on here?
Nothing. Spring break tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock technically for me. Cannot wait to hit that done button for a week.
Oh, by the way, this last week, I put together a to-do list for you for spring break. Yeah. Every 3 pages is one day. It's right here.
I'll rip it right in half for you.
We'll be busy, but we're going to take advantage of spring break and do some things together. Let's get away. Let's go down south. I don't know. Let's do something.
He is getting a haircut. I made the appointment for next week. Crystal actually came in and tried to convince me that a man bun would be cool, Angie. So she put his hair up in a little pony in the back. I came in and I took that out right away. It ain't gonna happen.
No.
Her science teacher is like in his late 20s. He can wear a man bun and he's fine. But no, not you.
I've never had a man bun.
You're not.
It's okay. But yeah, I told Crystal my hair is longer than Grandma's. Look at that.
Yours is next week.
Get that out of the way. Buy me a coffee. We're chugging along slowly. We had a little bit of a
chugging your coffee.
Yeah, chugging coffee. Buy me a coffee. We had a little bit of a setback with a couple of things. We're going to be producing some goal videos out there. I've said that a couple of months now, and it just seems to be something that's slipping past what I can do. But this weekend, I'm going to work on some of those. and hopefully not, March is almost gone. Hopefully April. And another thing with Buy Me a Coffee, we do have a live next week. We're going to have a live Buy Me a Coffee only members. And we have a lot of things planned for next week, but we also have an interview with a very, very special guest on Europlatus, small Europlatus.
Is that the Thursday live?
That is not in the Thursday live. That will be hopefully released next week to Buy Me a Coffee members only. It's a special video. I'm waiting for some pictures from the guest. Once I get those pictures in, I can edit the video and add them and make it something special. This is something that I've really been thinking of and wanting to do for a long time, years and years. I want to really dig down deep into one specific area of the hobby and really put out and it's not information coming from me, it's coming from, exceptional breeders, and putting these videos together so we have a series of cave geckos, periodoromorphs. Yes, I said it. Periodoromorphs. We've been waiting. Everybody has been asking me for that video for probably 3 years. Well, we're finally going to get to it, hopefully in the next couple of months. Things like that. If you have a special topic that you would like an expert to come in and talk to us about, let me know, and we'll bring that person in. Excuse me.
We did Tinley this weekend.
We did Tinley this weekend.
We went down to Tinley and visited with lots of people, and you got called out on it because you couldn't remember a name.
So last week, and then we're going to bring Benjamin. We've already delayed this way too long. Excuse me. So last week, I mentioned that we were going down to Tinley, and I said, I'm terrible with names, and I said I'm working on it. Anybody that walks up to me and asks me what their name is, if I don't know their name, I'll hand over $1. And sure enough, Katie came by. It was Katie, right? Okay. So Katie came by and said, okay, what's my name? And I came up with Laura and
I don't know what you came up with.
Alicia or Angie.
And everything.
She gave me a hint. She said, I'm the one that corrects your spelling errors on Facebook. And thank you very much. And finally couldn't get it. And she said, I'm Katie. And I gave her $1. And then she said, we talked about gargoyle geckos. And it's like all of the gears came together. It's like, okay, now I've got Katie, the gargoyle lady from up north, and she corrects my spelling errors. So it all hit at once. So now I've got it. Just like Carolyn. I'll never forget Carolyn. So one name a week, and after another probably 10 years, I'll know everybody in the community.
Benjamin, I hope you didn't plan on being on the show tonight at any point in time. He's just going to keep going. Let's
bring on Benjamin. I've talked too much. Benjamin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I would have sat here and listened regardless. It's fine.
That's no fun listening to me. That's terrible. That's terrible entertainment. We
can't
like
say I'm much better. So.
Katie says now I'm famous. We like to have fun on this show, and our family here that watches us, God bless them, because puts up with a lot. Yes, they do. Thank you for joining us tonight. We've kind of talked about this for probably about 4 or 5, 6 months, maybe longer than that.
Yeah. We were supposed to do it last year, October, September. I don't remember exactly the date. October, November, and I lost power in my shop 2 hours before our scheduled live, or something like that. A few hours before a car hit a power pole down the street. Funny, the power, same kind of thing happened this morning again. It's been real windy here, and a tree knocked over a power pole, but they got it back up. And within like it wasn't long. Within an hour, it was back up. So, and it was early enough this morning. I didn't alarm you, but I didn't think you would have believed me. Same thing happened again.
Yeah, Wally, and it happened again. A power pole.
Yeah.
Like, okay, scratch him off the list. No, I wouldn't have. That would have been just crazy.
There's a lot of fires going on here. Texas, it looks like, has a fire.
There's a lot of stuff going on
Florida,
all over the place. Hi, Ryan
North
and Jess.
Carolina.
Hi, Shane. I'm glad this worked out. I'm glad that you could join us tonight.
Same.
I'm very excited. You've been in the hobby for a while. You've seen a lot of things. Just if I could give an introduction for Benjamin, it would be this is somebody that if he said for a second time that a pole got hit by a car and he would have to cancel tonight, I would believe him and without even thinking about it. Benjamin's a good guy and good for the hobby. I don't know, if I could give more of a reference than that. We could talk about other accolades, but good guy, good for the community. You're doing amazing things. Tell us a little bit so everybody else kind of gets a feel, all of our viewers kind of get a feel for who Benjamin is kind of outside the hobby. What kind of activities do you like? Do you enjoy? What kind of hobbies do you have? And then kind of get into the whole business. I shouldn't even say business, the whole hobby aspect. How did this hobby start for you? If you would.
Okay.
Please.
The outside of here, I really have zero life. I work a full-time job and I try to run my business on top of that. 7 days a week, I'm at my shop. Unless I'm at a show on the weekend, which is every weekend. Let me put my duck back in the floor.
Mr. Duck is out.
I have never mentioned that to a guest. Sir, would you mind please putting your duck away?
He's close, but not too close.
Bye, Mr. Duck.
Bye, Duck. So I really don't have a life outside of this. When I started doing this, I started collecting isopods back in about 2019, and I started with the intent to make a bioactive enclosure for some tomato frogs that I had, and ended up liking the isopods and started getting and got more into those than anything else. And as well as I do that it's a rabbit hole. And during COVID, I ramped that up because I had nothing better to do and just bred out my collection and kept collecting, and then kind of was like, what am I going to do with these when I get too many of them? Oh, I can sell them. And here we are. I kind of fell ass backwards into a business, or a hobby turned into a business. Started vending reptile shows locally, and I did my first one in March of 2020, and I've done one nearly every weekend since then. That was with Gecko Junkie. Tristan from Gecko Junkie is who I started vending with, and then just never stopped.
I have so many questions kind of spread out here. I want to get into working with Tristan as far as how, you guys do a great job. You absolutely do a great job. If you haven't seen Run It Reptiles, and the work that goes into that show, and each person has such a great piece in those shows. We're going to talk about that later, but you mentioned, COVID and getting into this hobby. Did you ever see it expanding to the point that it is right now? Did you ever say, this is my path. This is what I want to work. And how did it keep growing and growing? Why didn't tell us that factor that just kind of made it get beyond, a normal growth in a hobby?
I've always been interested in reptiles, and I've always been in the community. I've been going to reptile shows since I was a child, and keeping reptiles since I was a child. And so having a somewhat impulsive nature when it comes to things, going to shows really just kind of fostered that, for lack of a better term. I just end up going to shows and buying more stuff and growing. And then it kind of building blocks. I started selling isopods. What's another product I can sell? I'm going to start making my own substrate, and that kind of led into the other animals and terrarium building, and just adding new products. They all kind of go together, if that makes any sense. try to stay within my wheelhouse or the identity of what I want my business to be, and add new products accordingly. And also try to keep it within the scope of what I can handle, because I am a one-man operation, so it can get out of hand pretty fast, and I have the tendency to take on too many tasks, and sleep less. So I got to be careful of that.
So Angie is asking where you're located.
Greenville, South Carolina.
Oh, see, if I were to guess, and I didn't know for sure, I would have said in the Tennessee, Kentucky area. But that's fairly close.
Yeah, not far.
Not far at all. So, you're struggling with this. You're starting the hobby. You're collecting. Now you're incorporating your business goals. You're diversifying. Isopods bioactive. You keep expanding. How do you stop? What's that key in your brain or your character that says, okay, enough is enough? How do you not just go overboard and have so many, threads out there of incorporating this into your business?
I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know how to stop. It's very close to that point. I feel like I need work-life balance. I need time in my day. There aren't enough hours in the day to do it all. So something does eventually have to give. And you can't do everything. And if stuff isn't selling, I'll try out a new product. If it doesn't sell, I'll sell through it. I'll drop it. Try something else. Try and add something else. I don't keep everything. I'm real selective about the animals I take on as well, as far as for breeding projects and for just personal enjoyment. I don't have room for large animals, monitors, reticulated pythons. I like all of that stuff, but I don't have room or time for it. So I try to keep all of my animals and all of my products within the identity of what I want my business to be, and how much time do I have to take care of it? Because I do almost zero online sales. Because I don't have time. And that's kind of the double-edged sword. I want to build that growth and build that online avenue, but I'd have to back away from doing shows in order to foster that. So I haven't found that balance yet.
What's crazy is you said that you're doing shows every single weekend. Wow. So that, I just can't even, we counted out how many shows are we doing this year? 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, something like that.
This year.
And that feels comfortable for us. I can't imagine every weekend. That would be crazy. But I love the statement that you made where you said that you brought in new product, you tried it out. If it doesn't work, then you move on. You move on to another product. That makes all the sense in the world. We kind of do something similar that will bring, we constantly talk, good team here, as far as, what you're selling, this just isn't working. Why don't we move that line to the side unless we can figure out how to make it more profitable in our business. But you bring it in, you try it, you move it out. It doesn't work, move it out. I love that. And I can just see, we've seen your table and all the items on your table, love the diversity, especially how you got into, not just isopods, but you got into the bioactive and just exploded there. And by the way, your substrate, we got some substrate the last time. We need more of it. Benjamin, we need more of substrate because it is excellent product.
It is the product I am most proud of.
Do you think that that's the product that you feel the community knows you the best for, possibly?
I would say that, and the isopods in general, just the isopods in general, and my beard.
And your beard. I couldn't disagree with that at all, because you are a classic person. when you talk about doing reptile shows as opposed to doing online sales, is it just a matter of resources, trying to get the resources to do the online sales? Or do you feel that you have your niche down with doing these reptile shows and that's what works for you? That's what you enjoy. That's what works for you.
It's a little bit of both. It's the resource is time. There's only so many days in a week. There's only so much time in a day, and you have to find the time to balance it between completing your online sales and preparing for the next show, because you're gonna half-ass both if you don't do it right. And the shows, I don't think the shows are my only niche. I do want to grow my online presence, and because the shows are, I'm tired. Just plain and simple, I'm tired. Um, and and it was, doing a show every weekend was never really my intent. It just kind of happened, and I didn't stop. So I got hyper focused on that, and some of them just aren't really worth doing all the time. And after being gone every weekend for 4 years, going on 5 years, I kind of I want a little bit of my life back. Um, and I'd like to cook at home sometimes, or you know just enjoy a movie with my friends once in a while. So it's time. Time is the greatest resource. You can't burn the candle at both ends.
It's, the hard part is, I'm sure for you, is you're working with a person that, in my mind, does burn the candle on both ends, and that's Tristan. I don't. He's a monster.
Oh,
Honestly,
absolutely. Like that man has a bottomless tank of energy, and I don't know where it comes from. Um, he's probably the most driven person that I've ever worked with in my life, and he doesn't do shows anymore. It's not feasible for him to do them. He's gone the route of the Palm Street auctions and doing really well with that. And I've continued on to do the shows because I do enjoy doing the shows, and I'll probably never stop completely doing them. It is a place for me to socialize and catch up and have fun with people that I wouldn't normally see ever in different parts of the country that I've become friends with. So I'll always continue to do shows. But
what a great answer. We're the same way. For us, it's the people, but the other, I think it's 50-50. Half of it is for the people that are involved with these shows, but the other half is because, we're doing geckos and trying to share the passion, blah blah blah. I don't mean to sell it, but for us, it's getting these animals in the hands of younger kids and letting young kids hold geckos above and beyond. We'll never ever stop doing shows. So we'll eventually stop, I guess, but we'll do them as long as we can, so that we can see the look in a kid's face the first time that they ever hold a gecko. And I think that you're the same way. That interaction with the customers is the world to you. And again, you touched on something before, that you're doing the things that are business related. So you have things on your table that are business, but you're also working with things that keep the fire burning. And that's super cool. And folks, if you're focused only on business and doing shows and putting stuff online just for the business, you're going to burn out pretty quick. And that's a shame. Tell us about some of the things. Go ahead.
If you do things solely for the purpose of just making money, you're not gonna enjoy it, and you're not gonna make money after a while. It's just inevitable. That's why I try to keep everything within in my business within the scope of the identity of what I want my business to be, and everything in my business that I'm involved with is something that I enjoy doing. I don't want to pick up the new hot species of animal if I don't enjoy it, just because I see other people making money on it. And because eventually I won't enjoy it. It's just, at that point, it's just another task. and I can only complete so many tasks in a day.
Well said. Absolutely. That first time where you say, I have to do something instead of saying I get to do something, then it
Yeah.
becomes work. And then it becomes just like you said, a burden. I've got to ask this question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shane is saying, will you be at the Charlotte Reptiles and Plants show in April?
No, I'll be at the Atlanta Repticon that weekend.
Okay. Cool. Just wanted to get that out there. Talking about passion. Tell us about a couple of things in your collection that bring you that fire, that every time you go to a bin or go to a gecko. I know, you're not just about isopods, you're also about reptiles as well. Tell us a couple of things in your collection that really get you excited. You get up out of bed, you grab your cup of coffee, and you run to see your collection. What are you first looking at? What's that spark that gets you going in the morning for the whole day?
Oddly enough, it's probably, as far as the reptiles go, it's probably my dune geckos and my sand geckos. Like they're the thing. They're probably the gecko that I look at first when I get here, that I mess with the longest while I am here. And they're kind of I wouldn't say a nothing gecko, but they're gaining popularity for sure. But it's something that I got into those probably about 4 years ago, and I've always enjoyed them, and I wanted that breeding project just because I enjoy it. Or my Urodactylodes. I've always loved those little lizards. Outside of the reptiles, it's building terrariums and bioactive vivariums for animals, or just in jars or whatever kind of container I find that I think would make a cool little cave or a mystic place to imagine living or visiting. That is my absolute favorite thing to do. And it's rewarding. Breeding the isopods is absolutely rewarding too, because you open a bin and it's full of babies, and you've been trying and waiting and keeping them alive for months, and then here we are. It's finally happened. Yeah. Especially if it's a harder species. I kind of tend to gravitate towards the giant Spanish Porcelios.
Yes. Yes. Our favorites too. I don't know your favorite. Yeah. Yours is Punta Cana, I think. Mine is the giant Spanish for sure, because they just have that not touchiness, but a hard difficulty to breed kind of thing.
They're challenging, and the variety, like no two of them look alike. Whereas, everybody loves Cubaris because the rubber duckies, and I get that. I do as well, but outside of the colors, they're all shaped the same. They all behave fairly similarly. And the Werneri and the Ornatus and I could go on and on. They none of them are the same. And,
no.
And they're all, every one of those, they're all dry or they're all arid, but they're all, one is a little more arid than the other, and there's nuances to keeping those where I don't think that's, with Armadillidiums and Cubaris and stuff, I don't think that really exists. Or it's not as nuanced.
I can't overemphasize that enough, especially with this giant Spanish. And I'm going to break into your interview here and say real quick, what hooked me with the giant Spanish was coming down one day, opening up a Hoffman Sagi, overturning a cork bark, and seeing one individual with 20 babies around this individual. And later I found out that it was the female, after looking at it a little bit, and turning over and her doing her little antenna, my favorite Martian kind of thing, and all the babies reacting in a certain way. And then after a while, I'm just sitting there holding this little piece of wood for probably 20 or 30 minutes and watching what's going on. And then she releases and they're scattered, and I go by her and she doesn't move. She just gets up on her, haunches, and she does the antenna thing, and all the babies right back to her. It's like, this is a little pill bug kind of thing. This is nature right here. And to see that kind of behavior really stole my heart and my interest. So That immediately became my favorite isopod, and the whole giant Spanish is a unique complex in and of itself.
They're not just bugs. Well, they're not bugs anyway, technically, but everybody's like not everybody, but I think a lot of people have that mindset that it's just a bug. Like that is, I don't ship USPS. That's probably a reason why I don't do a lot of online sales. I ship FedEx overnight priority only because, okay, it's just a bug. It's still a living animal that I care for, and I don't want it to be. I want to make sure it gets there alive and it gets there safe, and because it just deserves as much of a chance as anything else that's live that we're shipping.
Absolutely. We get that from customers all the time too. I've already received 2 or 3 shipments. Go ahead and ship it out. Nope, still a little bit cold for us to ship out.
Yeah.
This is a living animal, and we want to give them the best opportunity. I want to drive back to something that you said about terrariums. That fascinates me. Fascinates. However you pronounce that excites me. Fascinates. Thank you.
So spell it.
Can you Google search how to spell that? Yeah. So
I don't need to.
So you're doing the isopods, you're doing the reptiles, but now you're doing the bioactive and everything. Now you're delving into terrariums, and it gives you a certain pleasure and a certain feeling of excitement. What got you into that, and if I may ask, who are your clients?
I sell to a lot. What got me into it is, I don't know, it's just a creative outlet, something to do with my hands. I used to be an amateur furniture builder and model airplanes, and I've always made stuff and kept my hands busy. Metal fabrication, welding, you name it. And the terrarium building is, I'm very creative. It's, I guess, an artistic outlet, but I can't draw, but I can paint fake rocks and make fake rocks. So it's just, I don't know. It's it's always been something that I've enjoyed and something I wanted to get into, and then I just did it one day and I never stopped. I always have pre-built tanks that I carry to shows, and tanks that I think now at this point, I think getting a new animal for me is just an excuse to build a new enclosure. And you should see my wood collection. I just collect driftwood and corkwood and weird looking pieces of wood and rocks, and I just have shelves full of it, and I don't know if I'll ever use it, but it's too cool to not have it. And it's going to go in a terrarium, maybe not one day, but I have it just in case.
I don't find myself having that skill whatsoever. For me, it's okay. Hide, some substrate, water dish, food dish. Oh, I've got 3 pieces of cork bark. Let me throw that in there too. Okay, yeah. Next enclosure. It's something that's not within me. I don't feel like I'm creative at all doing stuff like that. But
I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit in that area as well. My first enclosure wasn't my best one, and I feel like we're all harder on ourselves when we're critiquing our own art, and it can be done, and I think everybody has the ability to do it. But if not, I'll build it for you.
There you go. Are you building these terrariums for the shows? Do you have clients that you're building these for? Are they and are these terrariums, are they like dark frogs? Are they more than that?
I build them. I actually don't have animals that go with them. I just kind of build them with the idea of a range of animals that could live in them. Honestly, mostly crested geckos, because I traveled with Tristan so much. So that's what, even though I'm not really in the I don't breed crested geckos. I have a bunch of them. I just don't ever pair them or breed them. I'm still very, very good friends with a lot of people in that community, because that's kind of the community that I came up in within this reptile community, as a result of traveling around with Tristan. So a lot of my enclosures are built with that in mind. But you could use them for anything. They're suitable for. They might be built for a crested gecko, but they are suitable for a day gecko or a micro gecko, morning gecko, you name it. Some of them I just build them just whatever. It's just cool looking. There's a wide range of species that it could live in it, and I just take it to the show and hope for the best.
Our good friend Ian is asking, does he do shows in Georgia?
I do. I do primarily the Repticon at the Gwinnett County Fairgrounds.
So Ian, just let Benjamin know the shows that you're at, and he'll choose all the other ones to go to. Just kidding. Ian's a great guy. Or Ian, you could go up to the shows that Benjamin's doing in his area too. Good traveling experience. So I want to talk about shows. When you got into this hobby, you started collecting. The shows were kind of an outlet. They were just like the next step. And what kind of influenced you to take that to the next step? I mean, if you haven't seen Benjamin's shows, the tables at his shows that he does, they're spectacular. They look great. They have a great diversity, but what kind of moved you into that direction? Was it all business, or did you just kind of naturally progress in that area?
It was kind of all business, and I'd say it was a little of both. Like I said, I the first show that I ever did was with Tristan. It was a show local to me, my local Greenville show, and he was going to be out of town at another show, and he had a couple of the other employees. He knew I was local, and like asked me if I just wanted to help. You can have a table. I know you do isopods and stuff. You can put your stuff on the table, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help. And didn't have high expectations for my performance at that show. And by the end of the weekend, I had greatly exceeded those expectations. And it was like, all right, what else can I do? What can I add? What do I need to do to grow this, to grow the collection, to grow kind of streamline things, to travel better, to you name it. But I was hooked after the first show, and just kind of knew that it was always going to be a side hobby and a side hustle. And then after that first show, I was like, no, this is my life now.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting in that you progress so quickly into going from casual, and we're going to set up some animals on a table and we'll see what we can sell to. Okay, how can we expand, and how can we make this work better?
How far do you travel for shows?
Yeah, good question.
I've gone, and I don't anymore. I kind of stick within 4 to 5 hours of home base now.
Every weekend?
Every weekend, yeah.
Holy
And I've put probably 60,000 miles a year on my car, or on my Tahoe, and I was going as far as like Arkansas, Tinley, Texas, and it's just not feasible for me anymore. So I keep it within 4 to 5 hours of home base.
That's a lot.
I tell you what, though, Benjamin, that's a long drive. So that you're talking 4 to 5 hours one way, right?
One way, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. We look at shows, and it's hard for us because we are doing online and we're doing other things too. But excuse me, we look at shows and we look at about 2 hours. Is about
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
But we go one day.
But we generally go one day. But 5 hours is a long haul. It's a long. Are those 1 or 2 day shows?
2 day. 2 days. Sometimes they're 1 day, but I'm not going to drive that far to go to a 1 day. I've driven about 2.5 hours to do a 1 day, but we don't do a lot of 1 day shows in this part of the country.
Really?
Yeah. They're mostly 2-day shows. There's Mickey does his Durham show that's a 1-day.
Okay.
Repticon does his. They had their Augusta Reptiday, but there was a whole year where the Reptiday in Augusta was Saturday and the Durham show was Sunday. So I'd go to Augusta and then pack up and leave and go to Durham and do that show on Sunday. So it was just like having a 2-day weekend.
Okay. Wow.
Very few 1-day shows. And if I don't have anything else planned, I'll absolutely do them. They can be good.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice being home on Sunday too.
It is, but it's also nice doing a show and selling stock and meeting people and meeting, networking and all the other. You've been doing shows for a while now. You talked about COVID. You talked about 4 years or so with doing shows. What are some of the big changes that you've seen? Give me a couple of things. One, what are some of the changes that you've seen in shows the last 4 or 5 years? How about changes in what you have done with your show, with your tables? A couple of changes, both from a hobby related for shows and for you personal.
The changes I've seen in shows in general from COVID to now, there's not as much money flying around as there was when everybody was locked up and everybody was getting checks for being out of work and unemployment, and that has all kind of slowed down. And I think as good as it was, we ended up getting it equally as bad. Especially last year was rough, and I think it's kind of starting to turn around now and balance back out. The market has been so volatile since I started it until now. I remember seeing $30,000 ball pythons and some of the $2,000 ball pythons that were flying out of the shows Saturday morning are now you can't get rid of them for $400. It's insane to me but that's kind of the state of the market then wasn't accurate. This stuff's only as much as what somebody's going to pay for it.
That's right.
And as far as that, that's been kind of a shell shock, I think, for a lot of people, especially when they got into it during COVID, or they, made a lot of money or had a lot of business growth during COVID, and now it's kind of a struggle for some people or a lot of people. They haven't been able to adjust and adapt to the current to the current market. If a gecko was $1,500 2 years ago, it's probably $300 right now, and that's depending on the gecko, and that's a hard pill for some people to swallow.
We just got back from Tinley Spring, and I think this is the first show that I've been to, and I've been repeating exactly what you've been saying here for the last year, especially with crested geckos, and saying the market's changing. It's not like it was 4, 5, 4 years ago. Is it crashing? I don't know if that's a good word to use, but it's changing dramatically. And I think it'll continue to do so. And I think for the ball pythons as well. But Tinley, I talked to many, many vendors at Tinley, and everybody was saying this is the best show we've done in years and years. Ball pythons, crested geckos, rare geckos, a couple of isopod people, everybody. It was, I can't think of one person that said that they were having an average or down show. Everybody was having a good show.
That's good.
What can we attribute that to? I don't know. Is Palm Street maybe, injecting some more interest and another avenue? I don't know. I can't figure it out. But it's interesting that one show, and it's a small sample size, had such a good response as far as turnout and as far as people actually selling a lot of animals.
It's I think the market's rebalancing. It's starting to rebalance. It's not
Yes.
necessarily rebound, but it's starting to become more accurate or reflect more of an accuracy in pricing and customer base. And I think there was a lot of people that during COVID, a lot of people saw a lot of other people making a lot of money and decided that that looks like easy money. And so the supply was more than the demand. And then everything kind of bottomed out a little bit. Those collections are being sold off or sold out into the pet world and never to return as breeders. And so the supply is kind of balancing back into the realm to meet the demand at this point, I believe. And, and and Tinley probably reflected that. I know I'm doing better. The shows for me are performing better this quarter. It's also Q1 is usually the best performing quarter of the year at shows, anyways, because tax money and you know people not having to save for Christmas and everything that being over with. But it's I think it's starting to rebound. The economy seems to be coming back a little bit. Gas prices are going down. I don't buy eggs because I have ducks, but I heard they were $7 a gal or a dozen, which is ridiculous. I don't know if those are coming back down, but I get free eggs anyway. So
I hope it comes down by Christmas time, because if you're not making Christmas cookies this year, I don't know what I'm going to do. That'll be
I'll ship you some eggs. I'll ship you some duck eggs. They're great for baking.
Mr. Doc, you better get busy there and talk to your female companions. So how about RolyBois? What have you done differently over the last 4 years? Give the people, viewers that might be considering doing shows or just started doing shows, give us a couple of tips that you've changed things around to be.
Branding is huge. Make sure you have a good logo, a good brand, business cards, backdrops, banners. It doesn't all have to be expensive, but it does need to look professional, polished, like you're supposed to be there. If you look like you know what you're doing, if you know what you're doing, you should look like you know what you're doing, and that does translate into a customer base and being present and being able to talk to customers and being helpful will go a long ways in building up that client base as well, and building a positive name for your brand, because it's not just a business. RolyBois, to me, RolyBois is a brand.
Yes.
And I put that logo on absolutely everything that I can think of to put that logo on. I wholesale my dirt to other vendors and other stores and are they competing with me at the same show with my dirt on their table? Yeah, but my brand's on their table. So that's the goal for me. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to sink tons of money in it right away. Like my first show, I didn't know anything. And I just showed up to help Tristan and put some stuff on my table. And then I immediately went to Office Depot after the show on Saturday and bought a banner and a backdrop and business cards. And they weren't the best, but they were there on Sunday. And then I continually just tried to improve that stuff. And Vistaprint's a great resource. You want to look like you're supposed to be there. You don't want to look like a fly-by-night person. You want to be accessible. You want to have a brand that people are comfortable buying from or feel comfortable buying from.
So in my mind, I'm thinking you're going to say something like, well, we stopped doing the real high-end isopods and we focused on the things that would sell, or we added the substrate and kind of formed that synergy on the table of the. You went right to branding. Wow, perfect answer. And when I think of it, branding, I think you have to. It's so almost unconscious you're unconscious of what you're even doing as long as you're branding. So you talked about, obviously the RolyBois logo, but it's as simple as it can be as simple as you always have something on your table. That's the guy or girl that had this Isopod model. So I remember that. Oh,
Yeah.
you're the guy that wears that red Chicago Blackhawks hat. Oh, I remember you. You're the guy with that huge beard. I remember you. And it's just
I get that a lot.
and it sounds so simple, folks, but it's way more than that. It's a way to make people kind of remember you, and it sticks
Yeah.
in your mind. And now you have to follow that up with, number one, quality product, obviously, and you have to follow it up with quality customer service. But you do the little tiny branding things. We're orange, except for tonight. We're always wearing orange. And I always have the hat, and you stick that in people's minds, as well as good animals and good service. And there's your brand right there. People will remember you.
People remember how you made them feel, not what you said a lot of the time.
Wow. If I could pull out one sentence from the last probably 10 interviews, that's the sentence right there. People remember how you made them feel. Well said. Well said indeed. Now, having said that, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but where do you see the hobby going? And I'm talking about isopods. I'm talking about snakes. I'm talking about geckos. If you want to cover one of them or you want to cover all of them, where do you see the hobby going in like 4 or 5 years? What are your thoughts?
Becoming more mainstream year by year, day by day. I think what I don't remember the statistic exactly, but it's 70% of American households have a pet. Most of those are cats and dogs. But I don't know if you remember, back in the mid to late 90s when I was in this, it was kind of a seedy community. It was the fringe of society. Not a lot of marketing and branding at these shows for a lot of people, and it's so much more mainstream with families having a cat, a dog, and a gecko now, and then they get another gecko, and then one of the kids wants a snake, so they get a snake, and I only see it growing in popularity, and I think bioactive especially is definitely in its infancy. People don't know about it. I have discussions about what it is and how to do it with dozens of people every weekend all over the country. And it's a way to make a living piece of art with a live animal in it in your living room instead of a tub with some aspen and a snake and a heat lamp or something. It actually looks nice. It's a showpiece. It's something that they can talk about when people come over and have dinner. So I think all of that is only going to grow, and the industry is only going to get bigger. I think as much as we hate the big box reptile shops,
You're going.
I'm not going to say they're necessary evil, but I think we can gauge the success of our industry off their growth, and if you've got them on every street corner in the USA, then the reptile industry is growing. But we got to figure out a way to grow into that and grow with that, and stay relevant and make it welcoming for these new people that are coming into this community and giving them the information that they need to be successful.
Gosh, perfect. Because I agree with you 100%. I think we need to stop blaming, these big pet stores, and start realizing they're the ones more responsible for introducing new keepers into the hobby than any reptile show or anything online or anywhere else. So we need to be there to support them. And when I say that, you kind of said it yourself in that, okay, you bought your first animal, be it good or bad, and we're not going to go there, but be it good or bad, you got your first animal. Now, here's information, here's a support system to help you keep your animal as healthy as you possibly can. And if you want to expand, that's super cool too. And I think that we need to work more in conjunction with the big boxes and doing things like that. We need to be there as that second, step for people that are keeping, because it is growing like crazy.
And I mean, as much as we all may hate it, or some people may hate it, that's usually where they land first. And that's usually where they get their first crested gecko or first ball python. And if they don't have a good experience, that's usually how they find us. And that's our ability to turn it around. And then if they do have a good experience and want more, they usually find us anyway. So we got to, it's like you said, that is the key. That is the gateway into the community. And they might just be wandering into, I see it all the time with like the Reptilian Nation shows. They do such heavy marketing. There's a lot of people that don't even know why they're there. They're just there. But what that's good for is planting that seed of getting them interested in the hobby and then bringing them into the hobby. And now we got to be cool with these people to keep them here and welcoming for them to be here. Set them up with the right animal. Set them up correctly with that animal. Be accessible for information after the sale.
This is a great segue into. I'm sorry. That's a great segue into. So you have a new keeper that comes to you. Let's say they bought their first isopods from you, or they bought them from another table, or they bought them online, and they come to you after the show and say, "Hey, I have some questions." Give us a couple, I guess, tips for the new isopod keeper. What would you say? Okay, you don't want to miss this, and you don't want to miss this tip. What are a couple of tips that you could give people?
There's no real right or wrong way to do any of it. There's no definitive one way to do it right. You can do a lot of things differently and they'll still be right. You can do a lot of things differently and they could be wrong, and you could still make mistakes and be successful. I think the ventilation is the one that I get asked about a lot, and it's like, how much ventilation do I need? It's like, it just depends. I don't know what to tell you, but look for this. This feel in your substrate and your sphagnum moss, and every house is a microclimate. My house is maybe a little drier than your house, so your bins are going to dry out faster than mine. I don't use ventilation. Well, I do now. For a very, very long time, I did not use ventilation, and I didn't tell most people that because I felt like I would get crucified by the community or a part of it. But I've been doing it for so long. I open my bins once a week to look at them. I can feel it, and I just know. I don't need ventilation. Some species I did. Some species I keep in full-blown bioactive aquariums. But there's no. It just takes experience. It takes feel. There's no one way to do it right, because I think we all kind of have varying methods to keep what we keep.
Ben Quintana came on this show about 1.5 years ago, and we were talking, and he was putting out facts and this and that, and he got to that point. It's funny that you say that you weren't using ventilation and now you use it maybe a little different than most people. Ben came on the show and blah, 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 blah. And we got within, 45 minutes into the show, an hour into the show, and he goes, I don't have any ventilation in any of my bins. And it literally went, okay, what do I do now? Do I go to everybody and say, now listen, that's Ben, it's his environment. Don't take the information, and use it how you will. But, for a second there was like, what? No ventilation. and then just like you were saying, everybody is different. Everybody works differently. Everybody's environment is different. So I'm so glad that you said that. So glad that you
I don't have time to check my bins. Like the more ventilation you have, the more often you're going to have to check them for proper humidity. and I don't have time to check them that often. So I think a lot of people I do get, most people are unsuccessful because they overwater or underwater. Um, it's hard to explain, like there's no perfect way to do it or no right way to do any of it. It's all different. It depends on your bin size, your substrate, the temperature you keep your house, the area of the country you live in, what kind of mesh you're using for your vents, or if you're just poking big old holes in them. You just have to feel it out, and here's what you need to feel for and stay on top of it, and then you can learn from there to how you need to keep your collection. I switched to vents because I was having a problem with my powders getting out of the bins. So I switched to gasket sealed bins, and so I had to put vents on those. And I would open a bin and there would be 10,000 powders in it one week, and the next week there'd be 3. And it's like, oh my God, this didn't happen at home. It only happened at my shop. So I got away from that method and forced me to use ventilation because of the bins that I was using.
Again, just it's mind-blowing how different this can all be. And how hard it is to give anybody the standard step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I think that you're alluding to this is that try. Here's a starting point, but you're going to have to modify, and you're going to have to do things different. Try it for
I can give you some basic overarching guidelines of what you need to do and what you need to look for, or how you need to do things, but you still have to. They're not perfect. They're not specific because they can't be. I could tell you to water your bins once a week, but I don't know how you're keeping them and what you're keeping them in or where. So you could be, well, how much do I water them? 3.5 cups. I don't know. Like it all depends. You have to feel it. You just have to feel it out, and you have to learn, and you have to be hands on with it and go from there. That's all there is to it. And you have to, if you're unsuccessful, you have to figure out why and readjust.
I don't know if you know Russ Wilson from Kermax Pets.
Yeah, I know of him.
Yeah, great guy, does great videos. He was influential, most influential, I guess, in my isopod keeping. But I remember there was a time where when I started, I would contact Russ like almost weekly and say, I'm just not getting this. I don't have an understanding. I don't have a feel for how much water to add. And you say, well, you're just, and kind of exactly what you said. And I'm like, write it down. Is it 2 cups? Is it 2.25 cups? I don't know, Russ. I'm going to do this wrong. Just try it. And if it feels like I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel. I want to know. I want to know right now.
Yeah.
Tell me. And so he finally said, okay, watch. I'm going to start a video and you're going to watch me water. I was like, okay, I got it now. But then, you had to go through that adjustment period. So I think it's a sticking point for a lot of people that they want exact specifics. And I know that I was that way. You just kind of have to get away from that a little bit, and you have to ask questions. And if you ask the same question on a weekly basis to somebody, maybe do a video or watch a bunch of videos and get a feel. That's probably the best way that I learned, at least.
Gather a bunch of information from a bunch of reputable sources and kind of take it all into account and go from there. That's it. Like I think the age of the information age and internet has been equal parts good and bad. People have access to a ton of information on how to do things, and that's reptiles, baking cakes, whatever. I think the bad part is they also have access to a lot of misinformation, and they also overthink it. Nature isn't perfect. It's not 61% humidity on the dot every day, constant out in the jungle. These animals are resilient. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect all the time. Perfect. It needs to be a range of husbandry parameters for them to survive. It doesn't have to be constantly at this all the time. And oh my God, it isn't a freaking out now. And that only comes with experience, I guess. And doing it from back in the old school when heat rocks were all the rage back in the 90s. Yeah, unfortunately, I still see those too, which is beyond.
No.
Yeah, I Big Box still has them. I think I know I've seen them recently somewhere.
I saw one at a rummage sale where I mentioned earlier that I picked up this shirt for a quarter at that rummage sale. So it was, the heat rock was pulling the shirt down. I had to move the heat rock to see
the isopod was hiding underneath the reed rock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well played.
See, I'm awake. I have a quick question. How do you water your isopods? Do you mist them? Do you just pour it in? What are you doing?
I use a turkey baster.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I used to mist I would use a spray bottle on spray instead of mist, and I would spray the corners, and then I got away from that, and now I use a turkey baster and just a giant jug that I keep it in, and squirt it down in the corners and let the substrate soak it up. I also have some friend of mine, Easy Eddie, has developed some kind of automatic wicking and watering containers that attach to the outside of my bins, and I'm testing a few of those for them. And I like those as well. So if I'm ever in a pinch and time is of the essence, I can just pour water in those canisters outside the bin and keep it moving.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ways to do it. I used to pour water. For me personally, though, I think the turkey baster is the easiest.
And it's got to be that way. It has to be easy and controllable and something that makes you want to do it over and over. If it's hard and it's time consuming, you're not going to keep doing it. We've gone
absolutely.
We've gone back and forth between water bottles to people are going to hate this, but I'm going to say it anyways. For misting purposes, I have a garden hose hooked up to the faucet downstairs, and we would take that garden hose and open up and feed and mist a little bit in the corner, simply because it was easier to control. But it has to be controllable and easy to use. Yeah. Folks, if you have questions for Benjamin, put them in the chat. We're getting kind of close.
I've got a couple start up in the thing.
Yeah, and Nanette's got a couple already. We're going to get to those in just a second. I like asking this question because I like answering it myself. But I love asking. I'm going to let you answer it this time, Nanette says. What's your favorite thing? Okay, you have 4 hours to devote to your animals. What's your favorite thing to do with your animals? What are you going to do for 4 hours with your animals?
I'm going to build one of them a terrarium. That's what I'm probably going to. If I have 4 hours that I need to kill, I'm probably going to be covered in mortar and GE silicone #1 and cocoa powder or cocoa fiber by the end of that 4 hours. Or I will just go before I leave my shop at night. I have about 100 and something pet tree frogs just living here rent free, and I'll go. Most of my animals are nocturnal, so I'll turn the lights out, and before I leave, I'll walk around and shine flashlights and harass them all and see what they're doing when they come out at night, because that's the only time. They're all pet rocks before that.
Or they're pet rocks behind 3 different bushes in your enclosure. That right?
Yeah.
I've got to say that's one.
I'll fight my tokay geckos.
Yes.
I run from those.
One thing that I'm learning here is you have such a diverse and almost eclectic kind of sense of collection, which is super cool. I really like that. And I know that's all what you just told us that you love doing is not true, because you actually, if you had 4 hours, you would play with Mr. Duck. So I know that is a fact.
He would just be following me around anyway.
He would be your helper.
He's right here. He's right here.
Mr.
Okay, Mr. Duck.
Mr. Duck.
What would be your least favorite thing to do? So you get down, you want to turn the light on and watch your animals. You want to build and sure enough, there's something that you have to do. What is that one thing that's like, oh, I hate doing this?
Clean, the snake shit. Cleaning, feeding, watering day with the snakes. I get bit. I get covered in poop. I still enjoy the snakes, but it's generally not. That's a task day. It's not a time for me to actually be able to enjoy them. Or I what bagging my dry goods. It's a monotonous necessity. Baking leaves, bagging leaves, mixing. I mix all of my dirt by hand, and that is probably I enjoy that the least. It's not fun. It's not fun, but it's a necessary evil for a product line that I feel I have to offer.
Do you get to the point where you kind of feel like, gosh, here I am, cup after cup after cup in the bags of your substrate or whatever you're bagging up? It's like, I should be working on the geckos, or I should be changing some isopod bins. I shouldn't be doing this.
No, because I do feel like it's necessary for the business side. It's not enjoyable, but if I didn't have a business, I wouldn't be doing it at all. I wouldn't be doing the dirt and the leaves and the dry goods at all. I would just be enjoying the animals. But I don't. My dirt is probably the product I'm most proud of, and I sell a lot of it. Doesn't mean I like mixing it and bagging it, but I'm glad I have it.
I'm going to say it again. We love your product. Your substrate product is great. Absolutely great. It's easy to work with. You can just tell it's a quality. You open the bag and you can tell that it's a quality product.
Smells good.
Your issue with the snakes, JP, one was saying, just call Nanette. She will help you hold the snakes while you clean. Nanette, that's her favorite part. It's weird. It's just crazy, but that's Nanette's favorite part of working downstairs with the animals. It's like I go down there. Yeah, I say, God, I hate cleaning the poop, the snake poop, and Nanette goes, let me do it. I'll do that. I love doing that.
About somebody else.
It's the other Nanette, yeah.
The other Nanette, exactly.
The one that doesn't live here.
We have a bunch of questions already, and then I have a hit it or quit it section that I have to ask you about. And right, I thought Benjamin would be the perfect subject for something like this. Let's get into some of the questions here.
Let's hope his power doesn't go out now.
Exactly. I don't know if anybody noticed, but our light just went off and it looked like lightning in here. It was pretty cool. I'll see if I can get it to another one to go off in just a second.
I could turn it back on because it's not done yet.
Yeah, it probably would break and explode over us or something. Here's a question for you. Won't be able.
She can't stay late. So she just wants to know.
Where do you see your business going in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? We kind of talked about the hobby, but we didn't really talk about your business. What would you like to see RolyBois? Where would you like to see RolyBois in 5, 10, 15 years? Have you thought that in advance?
Not incredibly. I do want to start. I would like to start a YouTube channel that's more focused on DIY and terrariums and keeping husbandry, stuff like that. That's within the next probably year to two. But once again, time is that resource that I have to seem to find more of. Within 5 years, do what?
When you do, let us know. When you find
I certainly will. If I could bottle and sell time, I'd be the richest man in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
But within 5 years, I want to buy property, build an actual facility to operate out of instead of rent a giant facility. Well, it's not giant. I don't mean that, but I rent an offsite location. It's a commercial building. It's about 1,500 square feet, but I do too much to do it out of my own home now. So I want to build a house because I'm actually kind of at heart, I'm a hermit, and I want to build a house that I can live in and operate out of at the same time, and kind of in the middle of nowhere. 10 years, I'd like to keep growing and be relevant and adapt and evolve with the community. 15 years, I haven't even thought that far ahead. I'm 42. I think I've only got about 20 good ones left. So
stop it. Stop
I've lived a hard life.
I still say that. Yeah, another year or two, and it won't matter anyways. But I love your comment. Your responses are just spot. I'm all honesty, Benjamin. To be relevant in the community and be a strong participant. Spot on. Thank you. That's a great answer. Cassandra's also asking, what is your dream isopod or isopod you would love to have but don't?
I have so many. So that was something that I learned early on, kind of to touch on an earlier question, was I never got into Pokemon until I got into isopods, and it started with it was just, you got to collect them all. Oh, I don't have these, let me get them. And as far as I had to kind of back off from that from a business aspect. Some of them just don't sell as much as I like to keep them. I am trying to run a business, and I have to be a little bit more selective with what I pick and choose. And so I stopped trying to collect them all, and I acquired anything with spikes. I love it, and I acquired my holy grail species later last year, the Cuban spikes. I've wanted those for years, and always ended up spending money on other stuff that was just as expensive, but I just didn't buy those. I don't know why. And I would like to add more Marullinellas to the collection. I have Ember Bees and Red Bees, and I would like to add more of the other Diablos. I would like to try tricolors again, because I was wildly unsuccessful with keeping those.
How are your Marullinellas doing? How are they doing?
The Red Bees and the Ember Bees are doing great. I almost don't think that the tricolors and the bees are the same species. But I'm not a entomologist, so that's just my hypothesis as a guy who keeps isopods. I could be very wrong, but they're, you keep them. I kept them the same way, and they just the Red Bees and the Ember Bees took off. The Loriola Vietnam white striped spikes took off. The tricolors did not, and I tried those twice, and that was a very expensive lesson to learn. And I haven't wanted to revisit it yet, so maybe again one day, because I really do love tricolors, but I would like to add a few more of the Marullinella species to the collection.
Nice. And any quick tips for those thinking about getting into them, like maybe myself?
I keep mine in fully bioactive enclosures, and I start them out in maybe 5.5 gallons. The Marullinellas I put in a 20 long, but they're fully bioactive. I miss them every day. Because it's a fully open screen top, there's a lot of live moss and sticks with lichens, and just a lot of natural material that's in those enclosures. Anytime I tried Marullinellas in a bin setup, they never seem to survive. So I talked to my buddy Jeremiah and Eddie, and how they were so successful with them, and it seems to be more naturalistic approach to the enclosures, with high ventilation and high humidity, which are two very hard things. Those two don't typically go together.
No.
But it does make sense seeing as where they come from, up in the cooler, misty mountains of Southeast Asia. So that's been successful for me with the bees. And outside of that, just their diet, I feed them the same thing that I feed all the other ones, which is, fish flakes with spirulina algae and baby carrots and sweet potatoes. But they do tend to go more for the fish flakes than the carrots. But they do munch on the live moss too.
Nice.
So I think that's been a huge key with keeping those successfully.
Great tips. I've got a question here that I'm not going to ask you to answer. I'm going to ask everybody in the chat to answer. Anybody that keeps isopods, see if you can answer this one. We're going to skip this one, Benjamin, because Aqua Garden, we're going to come back to it, and I'm going to get your answer on that, but I want to see what the chat thinks about that. We have another question. Have you ever had a mixed isopod type enclosure? Do you ever do like mixed isopods?
No, and that's mixed as in like, oh shit, there's dwarf whites in here. Yeah, that's happened a couple times. Or how'd these powder blues invade this bin? Intentionally, no, I don't. That's kind of my own quirk, I guess. I don't like mixing them. I like everything to be separate, and I mean all of my bins match, and they're all in rows, and the vents are all in the same space. I'm weird about that kind of stuff, so I don't mix them. I don't recommend mixing most of them, especially because the species to species, the husbandry requirements can vary so greatly. There's no reason to mix them, or you're not setting yourself up for success to mix them. I know people that in large enough enclosures, with a whole bunch of different armadillidiums or something, they're just fine. I'll mix powder bins sometimes. I'll mix the powders if it depends if they're the same species or color morphs or genetic morphs of the same species. I'm more apt to mix those. I'm typically never going to mix different species with each other.
Same way. And when you say that you have that, special thing that you don't like to see isopods mixed, the very first time I ever, received isopods and there was a contaminant, I kind of freaked out and said, what's going on here? I ordered this and I got one of these. Are your isopods mixed? So I was polite, I think, but I was pretty stern that we shouldn't be mixing our isopods. And then, like a year later, I sent out a group and, hey, why do you have a giant canyon with your clown isopods? It was like, oh, yep, I deserve that karma.
And I get, I buy stuff from my colleagues all the time, and I don't know if it helps. I think we all kind of do it to a degree. We get stuff just to get some new blood in the colony or something, new genetics in the colony. And it happens. Powder bin's going to sneak into a cup that you didn't intend it to, or giant canyon. I think I have a sandstone living in my clown bin right now, and it's just living his best life because I've not gotten around to pulling him out. But getting something with an oops in it has never bothered me. It's just, I think that's just a nature of the business where they're live animals. Control is, 100% perfect control is not going to happen.
I 100% agree with that. We're going to come back to this. I didn't see anybody answering this, so we're going to take a stab at this. What is a very hardy type of isopod? So I'm going to guess that you get this question asked at shows all the time. I just want a starter isopod. I want an isopod for bioactive. I want a hardy isopod. What's your answer for that?
What animal are you keeping in the terrarium? Mm-hmm. And then we'll go from there. Because if they tell me what animal they're keeping in the terrarium, I can gauge the husbandry. I can gauge the climate that those isopods need to live in, and tailor their sale around what they actually need. Honestly, between giant canyons, powders, dwarf whites, you can probably cover every bioactive need in the hobby, in my opinion, with those 3 isopods.
Perfect.
Dwarf whites, you can't kill them. So that's that. Anything from temperate to tropical. If you just need an isopod to do a job, it's a dwarf white.
The only way that you can kill them is if you promise to somebody that you've shipped dwarf whites for 8 years and never had a problem. You ship them dwarf whites and they'll all die. If you make that promise, for sure.
I take it that happened to you.
Yeah. I promise they won't die. We've never had a problem with dwarf whites. This is a great question. Can seasons affect isopod reproductivity?
I don't necessarily think it's seasons, but temperatures, yes. So if your house gets a little cooler in the wintertime, it's going to slow down. I do notice my duckies produce more. I keep my house at about 68 degrees. I'm a large man. I don't like being hot. So my personal house is kept like a meat locker. My facility is at about 74, 75 degrees. My duckies boomed when I got them up to about 75 to 77. So think about kind of where they come from. You know, it doesn't, I've never been to Southeast Asia, but I don't think it gets incredibly cold in Thailand. So yeah, their production is going to slow down when they get colder. Whereas, you know, like with us in the U.S., human production ramps up in the winter because we don't have anything better to do.
I'm just going through the questions here. I'm going to miss it. Let me see this one.
She wants input on if isopods will eat
flower pot fungus and how to address it in enclosures. Flower pot fungus.
They won't eat it. Springtail, I think that's a common misconception too, is isopods don't eat mold. Springtails eat mold, then they don't eat all the mold. They only eat some of the mold, and it's more pre-mold that they eat, that you want them for. So you just have to let it cycle out, or rebuild the terrarium, back off your moisture as much as you can. You're probably going to see mushrooms come out of that flower pot fungus, and pick those out before they drop new spores. Ventilation, a lack of ventilation is going to cause that flower pot fungus to really thrive and take over.
Oh, good points. Frank has a good question here. How many of you heard the Marinellas are now Ardentilia? I did not.
I've not heard that at all.
Frank,
no, interesting.
Frank.
I think Frank just Googled something about dogs and came up with the word Ardentinia and used that
to torment us.
Yeah, just to torment us.
I could also just be behind the curve. I've kind of been busy and not on social media or watching television or anything for probably 2 or 3 weeks now.
Same
so
here.
I could have just missed that, but I've not heard that. Not going to say it isn't true. I feel like I would have heard about it if it was, unless it just happened.
Yeah, I bet you it just happened, and I bet you Frank saw that or heard that or something and is sharing. Cool. I think we kind of covered this, but best isopods for a crusty bioactive enclosure. I
always recommend dwarf whites.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to get eaten.
Has Benjamin owned his first tarantula yet? I think that there's a backstory here somewhere.
I've known Kevin for a while on Instagram, and back when I was into jumping spiders, and I didn't own any tarantulas and didn't really have any interest in tarantulas, and now I have 4 tarantulas.
Wow, there you go.
Wow. Did you not own them just from a factor of time?
No, it was just I was indifferent. I'm not afraid of spiders, but I got into the jumping spiders, specifically Regal, and had a kind of a new appreciation for spiders. And then being around and making a lot of friends at shows that are spider people, I just kind of on a whim bought a sling one day. Or actually, I was given a sling one day by Marshall's Arachnids. They gave me a Texas Brown sling, and it was an excuse to build a new enclosure as well, and just do something, have something new that is relatively low maintenance and still enjoyable, even though they were right and I never see it. But the food keeps disappearing. And so then I got a Brazilian blue, and I'm scientific names outside of anything but isopods. I'm not going to know or remember. And then I got I do remember this one though. A couple weeks ago, I got a Gramastola polka piece, and then a Brazilian black juvenile female as well.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would say, from my question earlier, where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years? You're going to have a whole tarantula wall, and you'll be like Ryan. You'll be like Ryan, who gets Jess to do it all for him. I hope he's listening right now, and to feed them and change them and everything.
I don't think so. Anything is possible with me though. I don't know.
That's a lot of work. Ryan, you're crazy for doing all that work. Excuse me, looking for a very bold isopod for an isopod only display tank, a bold isopod. Oh, this is a good question. I kind of thought that it fell into the other questions, but this is a good question.
Gastroids, would be my first ones that come to mind. Marullinella, if you want to drop some coin on a nice isopod display tank and some expensive isopods to go in them, Marullinellas are very bold. But if you're looking for something more inexpensive, zebras tend to be a little bit more bold, in my opinion. I know I'm forgetting some other ones.
That's true. It was a good one.
One of my favorites that's a perfect answer. One of my favorites when I started out with isopods, because I felt like they stayed out more than others, was the I'm missing the name now. Porcellio, maybe it's Scaver, the South dot, the ones with the 4 dots on the back of their body.
The gold dots.
Yeah, they're gold dots. I think they're called South or dots. Man, I'm losing it here.
Is it the Porcellio or Nodus gold dot or yellow dot?
Yeah.
Those are actually those are pretty bold too. I would say they're a little more tricky to keep though, than the gastroids or the zebras, being on the arid side. And a funny story is when I first got those, it was just one of those things at a show where I saw them, I got them because I didn't have them. And then the more I looked at them, the more they reminded me of roaches, and I didn't like them because of that. I don't like roaches. And I tolerate my dubia colony, and
that's about it.
But then they ended up being some of my favorite ones because they are that bold. They'll pick up the little dried river shrimp and carry them off, and they are out and about scurrying around, and so they're actually kind of still one of my favorites.
Illinois says orange creams are super active and don't dig. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, any of the powders would be. Any of them are going to be bold once they, if you have 10 duckies, you never see them. If you have 100, you're always going to see a few out and about here and there.
Looking for food.
Yeah, aficionados are pretty bold too. Anytime I come close to my aficionados, though, they just kind of curl up into balls right away.
Exactly. They're like little flowers, and they fold up right away. I'm looking at questions. Unless somebody has some questions.
I think you've got them.
The Shiro Utsuris are pretty bold as well, and I think those are super underrated and relatively inexpensive and easy to keep.
Good call. Very good call.
It's time for Hit It.
Okay.
It's time for Hit It. I think here's
how we play, and you probably are familiar with this game. This is Hit It or Quit It. I'm going to ask you a question.
Hit it
or give you some choices, and you're going to give a quick answer. we can't really get into a lot of conversation here. So I'm told by Nanette, because she always yells at me because I start talking too much.
Well,
This
you
is for you.
always intercept your thought, and you're asking them, not you. So
I'll try not to this time.
I'll buzz you.
Okay, our first one is pretty easy. Who would you say is the most influential person in your life?
Oh man, that's not an easy question. I've had a few of those people in my life, and quick answer, my dad. My dad.
Oh, good call. Good call.
All right. No, just keep going.
I'm going to see if I can restructure this question. Who, as a follow-up,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Who's the most influential person in your life regarding the hobby?
Tristan.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
hard not to. Okay. What is your spirit animal?
Where did that come from?
That depends on the day. Honestly, probably a bear. Because I could hibernate a lot.
I was thinking with the beard and
I am large. I eat. A bear. I'd like to be a bear if I had to be an animal. If it wasn't a Galapagos tortoise, it'd be a bear.
Wow, I love his answers. Okay, here's this kind of goes hand in hand, but if you were granted a superpower, what would you most like to be granted? What superpower would you like to have?
Being able to teleport would be pretty cool.
Oh my gosh.
Or controlling time.
No.
If you could start and stop and pause time, but then I don't know. I've actually thought about this because my problem is if you can start and stop and control time. If I pause the world and everybody stops but me, are they still growing older while they're stopped and time is stopped? Are they still? Or is their body still aging, or their cells still reproducing while they're just standing there frozen? So I don't know. There would be a lot of nuance to that question that I would need answers for before I pick that particular answer. But yeah, if being able to teleport or run really fast like the Flash, because I've never been able to do that.
I would like to run fast. In the next
your question.
In the next hour and a half, folks, we're going to talk about the time continuum.
Put a mute button on people. That's a good power. Mute people.
Oh man, yeah. What's that show? I don't remember. Black Mirror, where they have the ability to block people in real life, and they're just a fuzzy orb that you can't hear standing in front of you.
That would be good.
That'd get interesting.
That would get very interesting.
Yeah. Being able to teleport, though, would save me a lot of time.
Wouldn't that be cool? That would either that or the Flash. If you could do everything like the Flash, that would be super cool. It would be the same kind of thing. Okay. Next question. Nessie, ghosts, UFOs. Do you believe in them or not?
Why not?
Sure.
Where did you
go? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Probably in this order: UFOs, ghosts, Nessie.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. No comments.
All right, sorry. Okay, you're right. Okay. This is an easy one. And we've all heard this before, but if you had one movie that you could put on a loop and just watch it forever, what would that movie be?
Oh, any of the Lord of the Rings series movies. In high school, it was The Matrix, and but yeah, I would say anything from Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, probably.
Okay.
Nice, very nice. And when you talk about Matrix, you obviously are excluding the last one, right?
They the first one was the best one, and they went off the rails with the second and the third one, and then the last one, it was just, I don't know, I think it was a catch and grab or something. It kind of completely undid everything that the first ones did. I don't know. It's like kind of like what the newest Star Wars stuff seemed to just kind of retcon all the old Star Wars stuff on its own. Like, I don't know. I didn't see the point in it.
Yes.
Was it entertaining? Yes. Was it necessary? Absolutely not.
Yes. Did it answer all the questions? I don't know. Who knows? Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a tough one. This will be our last one. I'm going to make this the last one because this is so tough. Okay. One person keeps calling you and you constantly ignore that phone call. Who would that person be?
Probably the IRS.
That's a good answer. That's a great answer.
I don't really ignore anybody's phone calls. If you have my number, you're in my circle. If you're calling me, there's a reason. I might not answer, but if you text me, I'm gonna text you back. I'm not always available to talk on the phone, but I will get back around to you, or at least text you back.
That was kind of a loaded question. I have heard that about you, that you get back all the time. That's super cool. Frank is saying 24 hours.
That would be his superpower.
If we had the superpower to turn back time, we would run this show another 8 times and ask other questions. Unfortunately, tonight we don't have those superpowers. So we've held you here for a long time, Benjamin. How can people find you? Do you have something that you would like to leave? And Frank, I'm going to post those in just a second. Is there something you'd like to leave our viewers with tonight? And certainly, how can people find you?
The easiest way to find me is through my Instagram. Social media, I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. So you'll see all my business page posts from Facebook are just directly translated from my Instagram. So they automatically post. But the emailing me is the worst way to get a hold of me. I'm trying, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. I need more of those. I need more people there. It's nothing special. It's just shorts that I post. And that's really it. What to leave people with something would be to, if you want to get into this and make it a side hobby, a side hustle, a business, whatever, don't chase the money. Chase what you enjoy, and the money will come from that, and the creativity and the growth will come from that. If you're going to chase the money, you're going to get burnt out. If you want to get into, let's say you want to get into ball pythons, sure, get into ball pythons, but don't get into it thinking that you're going to get rich or get money from it, because you are chasing down people that have been in this hobby for decades, and you could spend unlimited amounts of money trying to catch up with them, and you never will. So do what you enjoy, and do what you enjoy, and the rest will follow suit.
Amen on that. Oh my gosh, that's key to so many things in life. Do what you love, and you don't have to work a day in your life. But especially with this hobby, you try to get the latest crusty gecko morphs out there, and you are going to fail every single time unless you have super powers that we're not aware of. Shane is asking, Benjamin, do you sell isopods online?
My website is under construction, but you can contact me through social media, and we can work stuff out. I'm real bad about shipping stuff because I'm just always busy with doing shows and taking care of my stuff. But my website's been under construction for like 4 years. Just to kind of throw that out there. I've built a half a website on Wix, GoDaddy, and Shopify, and bought a domain name and made a landing page, and that's as far as I've ever gotten on any of them. The ADHD is also real strong with me.
Shane, you're going to have to visit Benjamin at a reptile show. That's
Absolutely.
what you have to
So
do.
are we, because I need dirt.
Yeah, so are we, because we need some substrate. Right on. New Caledonia, spot on with that. Absolutely. This has been absolutely a pleasure. It sounds like somebody's calling for
Mr. Duck.
for your attention. We are not going
Duck,
to hold Mr. Duck Duck
Here he comes.
up here.
Oh, let's see Mr. Duck Duck one more time. I don't think our
He's
And I
here.
want to see Mr. Duck.
I don't think the viewers saw Mr. Duck Duck.
Come here.
It was
I got
great.
He ran away.
Oh, no.
You scared him.
He's like, come this way, we'll play. Thank you very much, Benjamin, for coming on the show. It's a long time coming, but it was worth every penny and every moment. Thank you very much. It's been a blast having you on. Hopefully we can do this sometime in the near future again. That would be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a blast being here.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for
You're
joining us
welcome.
tonight. See you next week.